The rumble of engines was just seconds away when a little boy came tearing out of his front yard, screaming and crying like his world was ending. Sunlight glared off chrome as patched leather jackets shimmered in the heat. A line of massive motorcycles stood ready to roar to life. But the boy wasn't afraid of the thunder. He was afraid of what would happen if they left. For him, these bikers, feared by everyone in the neighborhood, were his last hope. Backhand index pointing right. If you believe in kindness and second chances, please like, comment, share and subscribe right now. Your support truly keeps stories like this alive. The day had started like any other in that quiet suburban street, where lawns were trimmed neatly and neighbors smiled only as long as they didn't have to talk. The roar of motorcycles arriving earlier had sent residents peeking nervously through curtains, fearful whispers spreading like wildfire. "It's them," people said. "The Hells Angels. Outsiders. Trouble." That's what the neighborhood branded them immediately, danger wrapped in leather and tattoos. But for 7-year-old Tommy, none of that mattered. He had just stormed out of his house barefoot, face wet with tears, because the one person he loved more than anything was in danger. Tommy wasn't brave because he wanted to be, he was brave because he had to be. Just minutes earlier, inside the small, worn-down home on the corner, his mom had collapsed. She'd been struggling for weeks, coughing so hard she'd grabbed the walls for support, breath failing, eyes dimming. The medical bills had piled up like towering walls they could never climb. His dad was gone. It had just been Tommy and his mother against the world, every single day. And now she lay unconscious on the kitchen floor, unmoving. Tommy tried calling for help. The phone was dead. He ran to neighbor after neighbor, pounding doors with tiny fists, voice breaking as he begged for help. But blinds snapped shut. Footsteps retreated. People whispered excuses to avoid responsibility. Tommy didn't understand cruelty or fear, only that his mother needed help now. Then he remembered the bikers. Intimidating. Loud. Undeniably strong. To a desperate child, they didn't look dangerous, they looked capable. So he ran. Across the street, the leader of the bikers, a tall man with hard features and arms covered in deep black ink, had just swung his leg over his bike, ready to leave. He didn't expect to see a crying kid racing toward him, eyes wild with terror and hope. The boy tripped and scraped his knee, but didn't stop. He pushed himself up and kept going until he slammed into the biker's leg, gripping onto his leather vest like a lifeboat. He cried that his mama wasn't waking up. That no one cared. That he didn't know what else to do. The entire street froze. The biker stared down at him, confusion morphing into something softer as he saw the boy's trembling lip and dirt-smeared face. The rest of the bikers lowered their kickstands and stepped closer, unsure but listening. People peeked out of their windows again, curiosity replacing fear as they watched the patched men kneel in the street, surrounding a child like guardians. Without hesitation, the leader scooped Tommy into his arms and barked orders. Engines silenced. Attitudes shifted. They weren't riding away. They were riding to the rescue. Inside Tommy's house, the bikers pushed furniture aside and checked his unconscious mother. One of them turned out to be a retired army medic. His hands worked fast while his voice remained calm. He checked her breathing, shallow, fading. He called for an ambulance with urgency that demanded immediate response. Tommy stood frozen, heart thudding in terror. The biker leader, who looked like he could wrestle a bear, knelt beside him, resting a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We're right here," his steady gaze seemed to say. And for the first time that day, Tommy believed it. Sirens screamed through the neighborhood soon after. Paramedics burst in, surprised to find their patient already stabilized thanks to the bikers. They loaded Tommy's mother into the ambulance as he clung to her hand, promising he wouldn't let go. When they drove off, the biker leader lifted Tommy onto his bike, promising to follow right behind. The emergency room was a blur of panic, beeping machines, and rushing staff. Tommy waited with the bikers in the corridor, small hands clenched into fists, every second feeling like a lifetime. The bikers, usually symbols of fear, now looked just as scared, eyes shifting toward the doors, hearts worried for a woman they didn't even know. Hours later, the doctor finally emerged with cautious relief. Tommy's mom had suffered a severe asthma attack compounded by exhaustion and lack of medication. If help had come any later, the doctor didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Tommy launched himself into the biker leader's arms, letting out all the fear he'd bottled up. And the man, this powerful, tattooed giant, hugged him back gently, almost fatherly. But the bikers didn't leave after that. Not when they learned what Tommy and his mother were going through. They contacted charities, arranged medical support, and paid off bills without bragging or seeking recognition. They repaired the home, filled the kitchen cupboards, and promised Tommy that he would never feel alone again. In a neighborhood that once judged them, they became protectors. And Tommy? He never forgot that courage doesn't always look like a hero in a cape. Sometimes, it looks like someone covered in tattoos, riding a roaring motorcycle, willing to stop everything because a small child asked for help. Backhand index pointing right. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share and subscribe. It truly helps us continue making stories that inspire hope and kindness in this world. Please comment below, do you believe real angels sometimes ride motorcycles? When the engines finally did roar to life again, weeks later, Tommy didn't run in fear. He stood proudly on the front lawn, waving goodbye to the men who had become family. The bikers waved back, eyes shining with respect for the boy who saw beyond appearances. And the street that once hid behind curtains now stepped outside, silently understanding that heroes come in leather jackets too. The throttle twisted, exhaust thundered, and they rode off, not as villains the world expected, but as the angels Tommy always believed they were.